Part 83. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 821. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchai View I created as soon as possible. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Looking at the contract content on the note, everyone knew that all they had to do was press their fingerprints. Their fortresses would be defended and their enemies driven back. Except for some people, most people did not refuse, and they pressed their fingerprints without hesitation. When everyone pressed their fingerprints, all the fingerprints spontaneously ignited without wind and turned into ashes. They could feel a mysterious power surrounding them, deep and huge. In the everything room, Lin Yi felt 40,000 contracts. Countless talents and lives flashed in his eyes, and after he completed this contract, he could extract them. Take a deep breath, this is a huge income. His eyes scanned the other people in the House of Everything. The cleaning work of the mutated corpses will be left to you. I have a special wish to deal with this time. Surely Sakuramiya, the rest will be left to you, the abbot. Brandy, all the weird objects are under your control. You have to cooperate with Shirley Sakuramiya. Do you have any questions about recording the results? Brandy said seriously, Store Manager, please don't worry, leave everything to me. Shirley Sakuramiya said calmly, don't worry, I will take care of it. Lin Yi nodded slightly, since I entered the heavenly immortal way, the number of times I have actually taken action is really only a handful. But this time, I can really show my power. There are so many monsters, I don't know if they are enough for me to kill. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Lin Yi's mouth, so indifferent. The human immortal clone walked out of the bedroom, but the real body was still sleeping deep in the human immortal body. Stepping out of the everything room, Lin Yi's human immortal clone had arrived on the platform where the Legion commander was. The Legion commander looked at Lin Yi, who appeared, and cast a calm gaze. We have signed a contract, now please take action. Lin Yi nodded with a smile, don't worry, your wish will definitely come true. The next moment, he took one step forward, and the space was torn apart in an instant. Then, he appeared outside the fortress, looking at the densely packed and endless monsters below. These monsters stretch for at least hundreds of kilometers, and it is not an easy task to eliminate them all. Thinking of this, a colorful fan appeared silently in his hand. The 5 Elements Divine Fan is a magical weapon that was re-refined by Lin Yi. A large number of high-end materials have been added, and they are perfectly refined with the true source of life, without any flaws. When it is refined, it is a top-notch magic weapon that can withstand the great power of the immortal way. He held the 5 Elements Divine Fan in his right hand and slowly raised his hand. A dark golden, chaotic power is injected into the Divine Fan, and at the same time, the power of the true source of life is activated. In the surrounding void, infinite spiritual energy was sucked in, and all of it was injected into the Divine Fan. The next moment, the 5 Elements Divine Fan slowly swung down towards the ground. At this moment, it was as if the sky and the earth were shattering, and the space in front of Lin Yi exploded in an instant. A colorful storm that cannot be described in words spewed out from the Divine Fan, covering all areas 1 kilometer ahead. In this storm are extremely fine chaotic annihilating divine lights. The Chaos Extinction Divine Light was formed after the power of Lin Yiren's immortal body was injected into it. It was more powerful than the 5 Elements Extinction Divine Light, and its penetrating power was also more terrifying. The area with a radius of 1 kilometer in front was penetrated by countless chaotic annihilating divine lights in an instant. After one blow, the area 1 kilometer in front of the fortress was completely transformed into an ash area filled with countless black mist. There was nothing there anymore, just black sand. Countless black mist floated on the sand, covering the 1 kilometer area. This blow shocked everyone. Above the steel fortress, countless armored warriors looked fearful and full of disbelief. The little figure in the sky just waved his arm and destroyed a large area of monsters. And this was just the beginning. Lin Yi kept waving his arms, and one hurricane after another blew past. Blow all the countless monsters into ashes. In just a few minutes, the entire world was enveloped in a chaotic hurricane. Flying sand and rocks covered the sky and sun, as if it was the end of the world. Earth-shattering scenes keep happening. Outside the entire fortress, an area with a radius of hundreds of kilometers has been swept by a storm of chaotic colors. Wherever the storm passed, everything was destroyed. All the monsters were torn to pieces in this storm, without any possibility. Even monsters at the Ghost Immortal Deo level, or even monsters at the Earth Immortal Deo level, they all face the same fate. It was blown directly into gravel by the chaotic storm. After waving the 5 elements divine fan more than a dozen times, Lin Yi's strength also hit a low point. There was no trace of strength left in his body, but he was just like a giant funnel. The source of true life mobilized the surroundings, and infinite energy gathered towards him. Countless amounts of energy were crazily injected into his body and converted into celestial Deo level energy. With the help of the true source of life, it would take at least 10 minutes for an ordinary celestial being to regain strength. But he only needed 1 minute to recover all his strength. After recovering his strength, he waved the 5 elements divine fan again. Storm after storm blew forward continuously as if it would never stop. As the storm blew, it would automatically absorb the energy in the void, increasing the coverage and power of the storm. The endless storm, with no end in sight, continued to spread to the 4 sides. Every few minutes, Lin Yi would recover his strength. It lasted for half an hour. Everyone in the Iron Fortress witnessed an unparalleled miracle. The endless storm swept the whole world, and the area hundreds of kilometers in front of the fortress was covered by the storm. As if it was a real natural disaster, the sky was filled with endless dark clouds, lightning roared, and the world seemed to have entered the end of the world at this moment. Everything in the world and time was destroyed, leaving nothing behind, only an endless ashes. When everything was gone, a dry desert appeared in front of the Iron Fortress. The land covered with ashes, like a real desert, stretched for hundreds of kilometers. At this time, Lin Yi took a deep breath, and the contract was completed. The commander of the Glory Legion was stunned, looking at the world in front of the fortress. Pure black, without any other colors, covered the entire earth. Is this a miracle? His face was changing at this time, all incredible. All of this shocked him, and his eyes showed incredibleness. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 822. Incomparably deep fear arose in the Legion commander's heart. This was a supreme power that far surpassed human beings. Is this the power of God? The Legion of Glory was fighting, looking at the tiny figure in the sky with trembling eyes. He didn't emit any special power fluctuations, just watched him wave the treasure fan in his hand. It set off this force that was like a natural disaster. People can't help but think that his power comes from that mysterious treasure fan. But the Legion commander knew that this was just a fool's perception, in his feelings. Lin Yi, without any power fluctuation, was like a black hole. Any power that comes to him seems to disappear. The infinite energy in the void is swallowed into his body, and then transformed into majestic energy, which is injected into the mysterious treasure fan. The result was the destructive power he saw, the power that could destroy everything. Taking a deep breath, he looked at Lin Yi in the sky with more respect. At this time, the crisis in the fortress has been resolved, and all the terrifying monsters have been blown to ashes. After doing all this, Lin Yi turned around and returned to the Legion commander's platform. He looked at the Legion commander calmly and said lightly, "Your wish has been fulfilled, but the journey of your wish will have to wait for 8 hours. Do you have a question?" The Legion commander quickly shook his head. No problem, I'm totally fine with that. Lin Yi nodded, then I will come back in 8 hours to collect the price of the wish. After finishing speaking, he stepped into the door of Xuanhuan and returned to his sofa. The surging energy created a huge vortex centered on the door of the everything house. The Legion commander looked at the void around him with a shocked expression. The terrifying energy covered the sky and almost covered everything. At this time, he could not gain a foothold on the platform and could only quickly leave the platform. This place has become a sea of energy, and the energy has almost turned into liquid. At this time, in the Wanqi house, a large number of spiritual jade appeared in the underground maze on the first floor, and all the energy was involved in the spiritual jade. On the lower 8 floors of the underground maze, a large number of mutated corpses are rushing into the maze. At this time, Brandy controls the entire underground maze. Countless dark green threads spread out from the maze, locking one mutated corpse after another. Among them, the powerful mutated corpses will be pulled into the maze by dark green silk threads, and finally transformed into maze puppets. The 9-story underground maze can accommodate approximately 10,000 maze puppets. All of these maze puppets will become the main force in killing mutated corpses. At this time, there are bounty hunters from the everything house on every floor of the underground maze. Among them, the person guarding there on the 9th floor is Sakuramiya Shirley. Because he is the only Earth Immortal Master in the House of All Things, there is only one reason why she is here. In the cities they are connected to, mutated corpses at the Earth Immortal level have evolved. And once this mutated corpse enters the maze, only she can stop it. And this kind of mutated corpse is also very valuable and has many contribution points, so it naturally becomes her prey. At this time, countless petals were flying around her body, shrouding a huge mutated corpse that was 4 meters tall. The muscles all over the body of this mutated corpse were pitch black, and the extremely thick and abnormal muscles made people feel frightened just by looking at them. But at this time, the monster was being cut by countless petals, and dark green threads were entangled in his body from all corners. He was unable to move even an inch and could only struggle feebly. Finally, it was cut into piles of fragments under the flying of countless petals. These fragments will be quickly pulled into the maze, digested and absorbed and become part of the maze. This mutated corpse at the Earth Immortal level is the first target to be transformed into a maze puppet. And every time a labyrinth puppet of the Earthly Immortal Deo level is transformed, the underground labyrinth will clean up the mutated corpses faster. More and more strange powers are being input into the strange Rubik's Cube in the House of Everything. The strange Rubik's Cube is gradually changing due to the injection of a large amount of strange power. The strange Rubik's Cube is completely black and consists of a total of 27 squares. The middle block is the core. It once absorbed strange raw stones and underwent a huge evolution. However, because Lin Yi uses spiritual waves for refining, it is completely controlled by Lin Yi and will not lose control. As a huge amount of strange power entered it, the strange Rubik's Cube was gradually shrouded in a layer of black mist, making it very hazy. The strange Rubik's Cube was originally integrated into Lin Yi's bedroom, but now it slowly emerged from the bedroom. At this time, several blocks of the strange Rubik's Cube lit up. They were connected to the bedroom, lobby, guest room on the 2nd floor, corridor, backyard, kitchen, warehouse, and underground maze. The entire space of the everything room is connected to the strange Rubik's Cube. The changes in the strange Rubik's Cube are also stimulating changes in the Wanchaiwu house. However, this change seems to be still in the process of gestation, because the strange power is not strong enough. In the maze, more than 100,000 mutated corpses have entered the 9th floor of the maze, and most of these mutated corpses have been eliminated. But the arbitrary gates are still pouring in these mutated corpses. Tonight, the Anywhere Gate will probably be able to destroy hundreds of thousands of mutant corpses. This war will last for a long time, at least 1 month. At this time, in the southwestern countries, there is a city called Yuan City, and a large number of mutant corpses have disappeared in the city. The Anywhere Gate is opened here. Through some special channels, some people's eyes have gathered here. They even crossed thousands of miles and came here in a short time. They hid in the tall buildings in the city, looking at the Anywhere Gate opened in the center of the city. The Anywhere Gate is 7 or 8 meters high, and a large number of mutant corpses poured into it like a tide. Seeing this scene, all the mysterious people who came here frowned. Because this is different from what they guessed. According to the information last time, the owner of this door will enter the city to kill those powerful mutant corpses. Only weak mutant corpses will be allowed to enter the gate, but this time is completely different from the last time. In an instant, they knew that their judgment was wrong. Behind that mysterious door, the Xuanhuan is not only for weak mutant corpses to enter. Powerful mutant corpses can also enter and be destroyed. Many people frowned after realizing that they had fallen into a misunderstanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 823. They did not retreat, but waited to see if anyone was willing to take action and be a tester. But unfortunately, no one who could come here was weak. Everyone was very smart, had their own channels, and knew very clearly the mystery and power of the Xuanhuan. In this small city, they naturally felt other existences lurking in the dark. No one was willing to be cannon fodder for others, but some people still came up with other ways to test. A mysterious humanoid object shrouded in shadows suddenly appeared in the city center. It hid in a shadow and seemed to have special power that made it not exist in the real world. In this shadow, the humanoid existence was rapidly approaching the arbitrary door. The humanoid existence in this shadow did not emit any special breath. Like a non-existent ghost, it passed through the surging mutant corpses and quietly slipped into the arbitrary door. At this time, Brandy, who was controlling the entire underground maze, showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. His will was connected to the entire underground maze, and anything that happened in the underground maze could be perceived by him. He has now reached the level of Ghost Immortal Deo. Although the underground maze is complicated and has countless mutant corpses, fighting with maze puppets and bounty hunters. But with the thinking ability of the Ghost Immortal Deo level, the amount of information in the underground maze is still within his tolerance. He has already noticed the mysterious black shadow sneaking in from outside. What is this? This kind of power is definitely not a weird existence. It is not a native existence on Blue Star. This is the power of the Adventers from another world. What do they want to do here? Brandy immediately came to a conclusion in his mind, and there were still questions. Thinking of this, he communicated with Lin Yi with his mind. Manager, there are intruders, they should be those guys who came from another world. A shadow slipped into the maze from the random door. Lin Yi was sitting in the Xuanhuan. If there was a Tianxiandao level combat force entering the maze, he would take action. Hearing that there was an existence from another world entering the random door, a strange smile appeared on his face. He, it seems that they are really looking for death. Send out the maze puppets to deal with the invaders who enter. Leave them all here. This is not a place where you can come and go as you please. Brandy heard this, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Yes, store manager, I will let them have a good ending. As he said, he had already mobilized a mutant corpse puppet of the Earth Immortal level. At this time, in the underground maze, because of Sakuramiya Shirley's action, 3 mutant corpses of the Earth Immortal level had been killed. At the same time, they were turned into guards of the maze. Under Brandy's control, the 3 mutant corpses suddenly flashed, disappeared from other places, and then appeared in the gate of the arbitrary door. They directly cut off the retreat of the shadow. In the Xuanhuan, all maze puppets are connected to the maze. The power of the maze will flow into their bodies, allowing them to have the ability to break invisible existence. Originally, these mutant corpses did not have this power, and they were almost all pure physical attack systems. But now, with the influx of the power of the maze, they also have the ability to kill invisible beings. Sakuramiya surely also received a notification from Brandy and knew that there was a mysterious invader. Sakuramiya surely had just cleaned up a group of mutant corpses, and a trace of solemnity appeared on her face. Intruder? It seems that someone has noticed the Yorozwaya. Her figure flashed, and under the power of the maze, she disappeared here. When she appeared again, she came to a passage. In this passage, there was a shadow sliding on the ground, moving slowly and carefully, as if exploring something. At this moment, two walls suddenly rose on both sides of the passage, completely closing this maze passage. As soon as the shadow stopped, at the same time, an invisible petal instantly swept the entire passage. The mutant corpses that were originally piled up in this passage were all covered by petals. The next moment, they were cut into countless pieces by countless petals, and finally fell to the ground, piling up like a mountain. Countless corpse fragments instantly covered the passage. The next moment, these corpse fragments were pulled into the maze by the dark green silk thread. All this took only a dozen seconds. The entire maze passage only had the shadow on the ground, and Sakuramiya surely was here. Sakuramiya surely looked at the shadow with a sneer. You have been discovered, come out by yourself, don't force me to do it. The existence in the shadow was silent for a moment, and then slowly floated up from the shadow. When she saw what emerged from the shadow, Sakuramiya surely frowned. There were phantoms of 5 petals flashing in her eyes. This was a Taoist technique that allowed her to see things that were invisible to human eyes. In an instant, she was sure that the humanoid in front of her was not a living being, but some kind of artificial creation. This was a humanoid puppet with a crystal body. The crystal was pitch black and full of star-like light spots. These light spots spread out silk threads, connecting with each other, forming a huge network. This network seems to be the source that drives the crystal humanoid puppet to move. This shadow existence exudes a faint shadow power, gray and deep. Behind Sakuramiya surely, in a shadow, a sharp thorn made of shadow slowly rises. Silently stabbed at Sakuramiya surely's back. The mysterious crystal figure looked at her quietly, and it seemed that someone was watching her through the puppet. Sakuramiya surely could feel that this was the gaze of some creature. Is someone controlling this thing? Humph. At this moment, the shadow thorn behind her suddenly stabbed at the back of her head. The speed of the shadow thorn climbed to the extreme in an instant. Perhaps because this shadow is not a substance, this extremely fast speed does not bring any airflow or sound. This is a wonderful ability. The shadow was originally an area obscured by light. It is just a physical phenomenon, a substantial form that does not exist at all. But now, it has changed from a state of non-existence to existence, which is very similar to the power of martial arts in the world of Blue Star. The mind changes reality, making things that don't exist exist. This unexpected attack seemed to have caught Sakuramiya surely off guard. As the sharp thorns of the shadow were about to pierce the back of her head, a petal had silently gathered at the back of Sakuramiya surely's head without her knowing when. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 824. Countless petals wrapped the shadow thorns in an instant, and mysterious power burst out from the petals. The next moment, the petals scattered with a bang, and the original shadow thorns disappeared. Obviously, this shadow has been defended by Sakuramiya surely for many times, and everything is under her control. Sakuramiya surely looked at the crystal humanoid puppet in front of her with indifference. A cold smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. It is impolite not to return the favor. You can also try my method. The next moment, she raised her right hand slightly and pinched the mysterious seal. In an instant, Countless petals trembled slightly, and turned into 6 flying swords made of petals around her. Then the flying swords made of petals turned into 6 streams of light, just like the crystal humanoid puppet chopped down. The sword light was strong, and the spiritual energy in the air around was sucked into it. In an instant, the 6 sword lights had arrived in front of the shadow crystal humanoid puppet. Countless shadow thorns rose around the crystal puppet, blocking the 6 flying swords. Bang, bang, bang. A huge explosion sounded instantly. It was visible to the naked eye that countless shadows were directly cut and shattered under the power of the 6 flying swords, without any chance. The flying swords pierced into the body of the shadow crystal puppet from all angles, piercing it directly. At the same time, countless petals exploded in his body, spreading around like a storm. Rumble. A huge explosion sounded, and the shadow crystal puppet was directly blown into countless pieces. Sakuramiya surely had no intention of capturing it alive, but just captured a breath when the shadow crystal puppet exploded. At this time, a mysterious seal appeared in her hand, in which an invisible breath lingered. A sneer appeared on her face. "I caught your breath, let's see how you can hide." At this time, the seal composed of colorful light in her hand flashed and disappeared in her hand. In the Wanshi house, Lin Yi's human immortal clone in the bedroom looked at the seal in his hand, with a sneer on his face. He raised his hand and a delicate incense table appeared in front of him. There was a scarecrow on the incense table, which looked very simple and simple. He raised his hand and waved. "This breath has been integrated into the scarecrow." Then, he picked up a peachwood sword on the incense table and jumped off the bed. He stepped on the mysterious Tiangang step, held the mysterious seal in his left hand, and danced with the sword with his right hand. In an instant, 7 phantoms formed in front of the incense table. He chanted something in his mouth, chanting mysterious spells. In the void around him, there were traces of starlight gathering and entwining on the 7 phantom peachwood swords. The peachwood sword was covered with mysterious runes, and all the starlight gathered on the peachwood sword, flowing along these runes, making the peachwood sword sparkle. The next moment, the 7 figures merged into one, and the tip of the peachwood sword stabbed the scarecrow on the incense table. The peachwood sword accurately hit the scarecrow's brow. A ray of starlight like a fine needle jumped out from the peachwood sword. All the starlight flowing on the runes on the peachwood sword gathered in this ray of starlight. The starlight flashed and rushed into the scarecrow's brow, and then disappeared. Following the mysterious connection in the dark, this thin needle made of starlight came to the body of this breath. The body of this breath is a pale human. His body is covered with strange runes and patterns, which seem to be tattoos and seem to be born. He was wearing a black robe, revealing only a bald head, with dark eyes and no pupils. Suddenly, his face suddenly changed, and he spit out dark blood. And this spit was 3 times in a row, and the whole person became pale in an instant. His skin was dry, and the whole person was not far from death. He fell to the ground, and then he struggled frantically, covering his heart and screaming, "Ah, it hurts. Save me, save me." He opened his eyes wide and screamed miserably. Next to him were 2 men in strange clothes, looking at him with horror, obviously frightened by his appearance. At this time, the man began to bleed from all 7 holes, and his body was drying up rapidly as if his life had been drained. Under the gaze of the other 2, his whole body was trembling, and then he suddenly stopped and completely lost his life. Seeing this scene, the other 2 were terrified. "Damn, how did this guy die? These people died so strangely." The other 2 guys looked at the dead man with horror, and the other person's whole body was dry, as if he had been sucked dry by something. They immediately guessed why. It must have been done by the people in the door. "Damn, the guys in here are too scary. He obviously just sent out a prop. It's incredible that he would cause a fatal disaster from a distance. What kind of power is this? The two beings from another world showed incredible horror in their eyes. At this time, Lin Yi looked at the exquisite altar in front of him. A trace of black air had already appeared on the scarecrow on it. The scarecrow even fell to the ground from its upright state. A faint smile hung on the corner of his mouth. The 7-star death curse is really powerful. Even people of the same level will be hit as long as they don't have a special defense method. Ordinary practitioners can't resist it at all. Thinking of this, a trace of satisfaction appeared on his face. This time, I should be able to warn those people. With a wave of his hand, the altar and the magic sword in his hand disappeared. These were all made after he came to Blue Star. The purpose is to deal with the powerful devouring power of this world. If there are some enemies that require a protracted battle, they will be attacked through spells. With his realm, there are very few people who can stop them. This is the first time he has used the power of spells. This power is undoubtedly very insidious, and once used, the effect is amazing. This time, he didn't even know who the enemy was, but he had already solved the opponent. I think it is enough to shock a large number of people, so that those who have ill intentions will be more careful to restrain their claws and not reach out randomly. After doing all this, Lin Yi's human immortal clone continued to sit back on his bed and practice quietly. His Blue Star clone was still quietly observing the war in the Wanchaiwu in the living room. His clone practiced the martial arts system of this world and has almost reached the level of Ghost Immortal. Dozens of Dao marks have already established a Dao mark system of initial size in his mind. The vast spiritual energy surged out from it, merging with the Dao marks to produce a faint field. This field can affect the spirit and mind of life to a certain extent, and at the same time control the dead energy. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 825. At this time, Lin Yi has opened his own domain, and through the true life root, he quickly absorbs external energy. Both dead energy and spiritual energy are within the range of mobilization. Countless energy quickly merged into the magnetic field, forming a wonderful cycle. The entire domain turned into a chaotic gray-white. This gray-white domain is rapidly expanding, spreading to the entire Wanchaiwu. With the true life root, Lin Yi does not have to worry about too much energy being integrated into the uncontrolled things. He found that when the true life root and the domain are combined, his domain expansion speed is hundreds of times that of ordinary gods. This is a huge good news, because ordinary gods need time to accumulate in order to expand a huge domain. In this process, the god level is not as powerful as imagined. It can't even reach too powerful technological weapons. But Lin Yi is different. If his domain can expand at a speed of 100 times, that means that he can raise the upper limit of the power of the Blue Star clone to a higher level in a short time. The martial arts system of this world is very special. After the God General level is cultivated to the peak, it can rival the Ghost Immortal Dao, relying solely on its own strength. But if they are given time to absorb the dead energy and form a larger domain, then the combat power can be close to the Earth Immortal Dao. Although there is some gap compared to the real Earth Immortal Dao, it is definitely stronger than the Ghost Immortal Dao. The strong men of this world's higher martial arts, the Dao traces in their bodies are completely integrated, and the domain generated will resonate with the magnetic field of the entire world. Only then can the defect of the God General level magnetic field that needs time to accumulate to expand be made up. Only then can the combat power of the Earth Immortal Dao level be maintained anytime and anywhere. At this time, Lin Yi reached this realm in advance through the true life root, making up for the time defect of the God General level to expand the domain. The majestic magnetic field spread into the underground maze like a tide. Lin Yi did not attack, he was constantly absorbing energy to expand. He wanted to see what the limit range of the domain he could currently control was. Time passed by minute. Soon, the first 3 layers of the maze were completely covered by the domain. After reaching this range, Lin Yi felt that his domain expansion had reached its limit. His spiritual power had reached its limit in terms of the area it could cover. Lin Yi in the lobby nodded slightly. The domain covers an area of about 10 square kilometers. It can basically cover a huge city. At this time, he could grasp everything in the domain in detail, and no information could escape his surveillance. He thought slightly, and suddenly a series of chaotic needles appeared in the spiritual domain. These needles aimed at the prey selected by Lin Yi and launched an attack instantly. Puff puff puff. The needles were densely packed in every place in the domain, carrying powerful energy fluctuations, and pierced into the mutant corpses around. The next moment, these needles exploded in their bodies. In just a moment, at least 30,000 mutant corpses were attacked. After being attacked, these mutant corpses quickly became bumpy and had countless holes all over their bodies. After this attack, the energy density of the entire domain became thin in an instant, and then broke inch by inch. Lin Yi in the lobby turned pale, and his spiritual imprint dimmed instantly. All the spiritual energy was cut off instantly. The attack just now exhausted all his spirit, resulting in the disappearance of all the spirit stored in the Dao mark, leaving only the pure structure. At the same time, the power of the spiritual level also stopped flowing out. He thought to himself, so that's it? The Dao mark must contain enough spirit to carry the power of the mind. The power of the mind cannot exist directly in this world. Its existence requires a carrier. And the spirit is the carrier of the power of the mind. Once it is exhausted, it means that it has completely lost its combat effectiveness. At this time, in the maze, those mutant corpses that were blasted with countless holes by the chaotic needles were quickly attacked by the maze silk threads and maze puppets. In a short time, they became the nutrients of the maze. The bounty hunters who were fighting in the first 3 layers of the maze also saw the scene just now. They also felt the magic of the martial arts system in this world. Lao Wei and Jin were both on the first layer because they were the weakest people. Most of the corpses that appeared on the first floor were the lowest level mutants. The 2 of them were the most surprised by the magic of the martial arts system in this world. At this time, they secretly had an idea in their hearts. This power is really strong. I must practice the power of this world at the same time, Lao Wei thought slowly. I am not an orthodox practitioner. It is almost impossible to catch up with others. It will take too much time and energy. I still have a son who needs to rely on me. I must find the most suitable way to fight. The martial arts system in this world consumes very little resources. As long as I have enough life, I can continue to practice. One day in the future, I can reach the boss's realm. Jin's heart was also filled with excitement. This is our strength, not inferior to the way of qi and blood cultivation, or the way of immortal cultivation. I must do my best. Carry forward the cultivation method of our world. Not to mention the thoughts of these 2 people, at this time in Yuan City, the number of millions of mutant corpses is decreasing at an alarming rate. Half of them have disappeared in the arbitrary door in the city. At this time, the strong men hidden in various places in the city have received some news. The alien existence that was initially explored has died. And it died in an inexplicable way, looking like it was cursed. This made everyone feel a little in awe of the Wanchaiwu, and there were many of them who had the strength of the Tiangxiandao level. But they asked themselves that they could not do this silent killing method. Some of them have guessed the nature of this killing method. After all, most of them are beings descended from the alien world. Some people are well informed, and they also know the existence of curses. At this time, there are 21 mysterious auras lingering over the city. They are very cautious in hiding in the wonderful layers. Their minds are communicating. Among the beings that descended, 1 person has already died. It sent some kind of tool into the Wanchi house to explore, and it seems to have been attacked. That Mr. Lin seems to have mastered some kind of ability to attack from a distance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 826. This ability can be judged based on the information we dug out from the souls of those beings from other worlds. It should be a power similar to a curse. To cast this kind of curse, most of them require the other party's items or breath as a medium. After this, if we want to take action, we must hide our breath and not be caught by the other party. Otherwise, we may face the other party's curse at any time in the future. And this kind of curse, with our power system, I don't know if we can resist it. Lord Zhou, you are the first among us in calculation. Now we have captured many beings from other worlds, and learned a lot of information about other worlds from their souls. Do you think this curse power is a big threat to us? One of the 21 huge wills asked slowly. Destroy the king, according to our current calculations. The martial arts system of our world is very peculiar, involving the power of the mind. This is the power that we evolved alone, and it is different from all the powers in other worlds. Most other systems require the power called spiritual energy. The power of the mind is unique, and it is the essential power of all living things. It can interfere with everything and even change the rules of the world, which is something that the power systems of other worlds cannot do. But our power is limited by our spiritual limit, and our spiritual limit will also be affected by the body. Once the war starts, our endurance is far less than those of other worlds. But the special nature of our power allows us to ignore most of the power systems in this world. At the same time, because of the emergence of spiritual energy, the strength of the body can be enhanced. The increase in physical strength can expand our spiritual limit to a certain extent, thereby increasing our endurance. In general, although this curse is powerful, it is resistible for us now. We don't have to worry too much. The most important thing now is how can we catch this manager Lin of the Wanchaiwu. The method of crossing the other world in his hand is something we must get. Is a strong attack feasible? A cold and murderous will slowly sounded. Lord of Chaos, if you want to attack by force, we have enough strength. But there is a problem. We know nothing about the Wanchaiwu where Manager Lin is. You should have seen that at the spiritual level, it is a dark black hole. It is filled with unimaginable darkness and terror. Once you enter that area, it is the opponent's home court. What will happen after the war? No one can predict. If things go wrong, some of us will die there. We have spent countless time and energy to enter this realm. It is not for fighting, but for longevity. There is no need to risk your life to do this. According to the news reported by the King of Dark Night, this person can be traded. In the absence of 100% sure, I don't recommend a strong attack, because as long as you don't make a move, there is still a possibility of a deal. From today's situation, this Mr. Lin is unlikely to leave Wanchaiwu. His strategy should have been decided, to absorb more mutant corpses into Wanchaiwu, and then deal with them. It can fulfill our agreement without taking any risks. Our plan to capture him will naturally be destroyed. This man is more cautious than we thought. My suggestion is that everything ends here. Look for a better opportunity next time. At the same time, wait for the person from Wulingdao to complete his cross-border formation. Be prepared for both situations. The 21 huge wills slowly fell silent, and finally they reached a consensus. The 21 hidden auras slowly dissipated in the sky of Yuan City. At this time, other alien beings who descended also realized that things were impossible. Most people felt that they could not harvest millions of mutant corpses in just one night. So they also knew that if they forced their way in, there would be no good end, and retreat was actually their only choice. One after another, hidden auras disappeared in Yuan City. The strange feeling of undercurrents also quickly dissipated. At this time, the sky was also bright, and a new day had arrived. The mutant corpses in Yuan City were basically cleared. However, the entire city was still shrouded in a black substance, like an endless ghost land, which made people feel terrified when they saw it. As the sky was about to brighten, Lin Yi and the Wanchaiwu passed through the gate again and returned to the world where the Legion commander was. At this time, all the disasters here have calmed down. The Legion commander was waiting here alone. When Lin Yi came again, a trace of respect appeared in his eyes. "Hello, Mr. Lin, thank you again for your help." Lin Yi waved his hand. "Okay, now it's time to complete our contract." The Legion commander nodded. "Of course, there is no problem." As his voice fell, a wonderful scene appeared in the entire steel fortress. All kinds of brilliance appeared on the bodies of every soldier in the iron fortress. These brilliances rose into the sky and gathered on a platform at the top of the fortress. This is where the Legion commander commands the entire fortress. There are mountains of life crystals and talent crystals, totaling 50,000. Lin Yi raised his hand and waved it gently, and his cuffs burst out with huge suction like a black hole. He sucked all the crystals into it and disappeared. After doing all this, a note appeared in his hand. He threw the note to the Legion commander. "If you want to make a deal next time, you can contact me through it. Remember, this is the Wanchaiwu. As long as you pay enough, I can fulfill all your wishes." After the voice fell, without waiting for the Legion commander to contact, Lin Yi took a step back and entered the red door. The door slowly closed, and Lin Yi appeared in the Wanchaiwu again. After doing all this, the power of the underground maze suddenly enveloped him, and the next moment, he appeared in the deepest part of the underground maze. There is a huge door here, and the arbitrary door is still connected to Yuan City. Standing at the gate, his eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, capturing everything in the outside world. The deserted city, only the buildings covered with black matter. "Hee, are you leaving? It seems that killing the chicken to scare the monkey still worked." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 827. The latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu I Created is updated the fastest. I hope they won't make such attempts next time. I don't have the time and interest to get entangled with them. Weird, it's really omnipresent. A little leak will lead to such a serious situation. As long as you know their existence, they will be constantly located. These things are really like dogskin plasters. You can't get rid of them. If this goes on, no matter how my Wanchaiwu migrates, I will encounter their existence. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of helplessness and some disgust. He likes a peaceful life and doesn't like being chased all day long like this. Maybe I have to think about how to avoid being tracked by weird moments. Shaking his head slightly, Lin Yi stepped out of the arbitrary door and then took a deep breath. The next moment, a majestic force permeated from his body. The chaotic brilliance, like a storm, swept around. This is a pure energy storm. In this energy, there is a cyan spiritual wave radiance, but this radiance can only be perceived by people with spiritual power. All substances that touch this energy storm will collapse in an instant, especially strange substances. Just like encountering a natural enemy, it melts and turns into ashes in an instant. A trace of strange power is absorbed by Lin Yi's spiritual wave. Lin Yi is imitating Wanjin City. He wants to completely destroy the entire city. Eliminate all strange substances and absorb the core strange power. The brilliant radiance swept the entire city in a short time. The energy storm completely destroyed the Yuan city, and in the end only a deep pit was left, covered with endless ashes. At this time, Lin Yi's spiritual wave sphere also showed a significant increase again. A large amount of spiritual waves are running in his body. The simple spiritual wave is still invisible and intangible, and will not affect any substance in this world. From the beginning to now, there has been no change, and it is stable beyond imagination. True destiny exists at the level of the mind, but the power and spiritual waves that extend out seem to surpass the pure power of the mind. So far, he has only glimpsed some traces of true destiny. He took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. I don't know when the seventh true destiny will be truly completed. Each handprint of the true destiny should be sublimated from the Deo trace. Perhaps only I have completed the universe composed of the acquired Deo trace. Only then can the true destiny handprint be reversely analyzed and the principle of deducing the true destiny handprint can be found. There is still a long way to go. The infinite spiritual energy in the void is converging towards Lin Yi, filling the power of the human immortal Deo clone and the celestial immortal body. He turned around and disappeared in the arbitrary door in one step, and the arbitrary door slowly closed. The scene that happened here was once again monitored by satellites from all over the world. After receiving this information, the strong men who left here all frowned slightly. They felt that they seemed to have missed a good opportunity. The minds of countless strong men changed again. They felt that they seemed to have touched the Wanchaiwu and destroyed some rules of the city where the mutant corpses were located. But Lin Yi didn't care about these at this time. The Wanchaiwu was growing at an astonishing speed. A large amount of weird power was constantly improving the essence of the weird items in the Wanchaiwu, and their power was becoming greater and greater. Almost all the weird items had reached the level of third-level weird items at the lowest. The harvest from the 2 eliminations of the mutant corpse city was amazing. Not only the Wanchaiwu, but all members benefited a lot. Through contribution points, they began to exchange a large amount of materials to improve their own strength. After destroying a Yuan city at this time, according to the contract signed with Ximen Wushan, a large number of talents and lifespans are constantly appearing. This time, the contract was signed not only by people from country H, but also by countries all over the world, and each country had to pay a price. In addition to talent and lifespan as a price, Lin Yi also proposed to pay some materials as a price. Various metal substances, these substances are calculated in tons. The reason why Lin Yi asked for the supply of these substances is because he wanted to start refining large-scale magic tools. Once a large-scale magic tool is successfully refined, its power is very huge. It can even multiply the power of the celestial fairy level. However, the magic weapon that Lin Yi intends to refine this time is not for combat. Instead, it is specially used to tear time and space and establish channels with other worlds. By observing the distortion of the alien world that keeps coming, Lin Yi has mastered a lot of time and space knowledge that connects to unknown worlds. But with his own power, the time and space channels that can be torn are always limited. Before entering the void catastrophe, he cannot create time and space channels at will. So after thinking about it, the best way is to use magic weapons. Among the magic weapons, only large magic weapons can accomplish this kind of thing. But large magic weapons require a lot of materials, involving various substances. However, the quality requirements are not so strict. The various materials that Lin Yi exchanged from the Red Lotus Realm sect are limited, and once they are used up, they will be gone. So to refine large magic weapons, he plans to borrow the native materials of this world. Then use the Red Lotus Realm's weapon refining method to refine the essence of the material, and use these essences to refine large-scale magic tools. And the current realm can already support the refining of such large-scale magic tools. The materials he requested this time, all kinds of metals alone add up to more than 100,000 tons. When Ximen Wushan heard Lin Yi's request, he was shocked. He didn't know why Lin Yi wanted so many materials. But these materials are much easier to obtain than the expenditure of talent. It only took a few days to gather the materials that Lin Yi wanted. At dawn, a huge roar sounded outside the Wanchaiwu. Those were large trucks, transporting various metals to the door of the Wanchaiwu. At this time, the door of the Wanchaiwu had been opened, and the maze puppets were neatly arranged, moving all kinds of metal blocks from the truck down. These maze puppets passed these metal blocks one by one and sent them into the underground maze. Finally, they gathered in the center of the first floor of the underground maze, a special open area with a range of about 1 square kilometer. That was the place prepared by Lin Yi for refining magic tools. Metal blocks were piled up one by one into a mountain, filling the entire space. It took a whole day to move these metal blocks, and the truck came 5,000 times. These maze puppets were tireless, and their strength and speed were amazing. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 828. Thanks to these puppets, all the materials could be moved into the underground maze and stored in such a short time. This time, there are a lot of talents to start with. Lin Yi is very happy, which means that more people will provide him with Dao marks. The busy day passed quickly, and the task of cleaning up the corpses on the second day continued. This is another sleepless night, and the same routine continues to happen in cities in the southwestern countries. For the next month, all the strong men on Blue Star witnessed the power of the Wanchaiwu. The total population of the southwestern countries exceeded 300 million. In this wave of mutant corpses, at least half of the people died in this incident. The spread area exceeded millions of square kilometers. But within a month, more than 30 huge cities were destroyed, and more than 40 million mutant corpses were destroyed. These cities are all the most famous cities in the southwestern countries, and the population is almost more than millions. But no matter how big the city is, it will be destroyed overnight. This terrifying devouring ability also completely shocked all the strong men on Blue Star, whether they were native or from other worlds. They all fully realized the horror of the Wanchaiwu, and everyone gave up the idea of moving. Through comparison, they can find that no one dares to guarantee that they can do the same thing as the Wanchaiwu. And the Wanchaiwu has also become famous on Blue Star. Anyone with some resources and power has heard of the existence of the Wanchaiwu. Countless people yearn for the mysterious and powerful Wanchaiwu. Especially when they heard that Li Wu had regained his youth, and the Lotus Sword Fairy Li Hualian from 2,000 years ago was reborn in the world. Destroy Wanjin City and destroy countless mutant cities in the southwestern countries. These major events have aroused everyone's nerves. Even the strong men of the 3 most mysterious palaces in Blue Star gave up their original ideas. No longer want to use force to coerce Lin Yi to hand over the method of crossing the world. Because they really can't see how powerful the Wanchaiwu is. At this time, the Wanchaiwu had a vague aura of the uncrowned king on the Blue Star, which shocked countless lawless people. However, he also attracted a lot of attention, especially the attention of those who came from outside the domain. There is no shortage of outsiders among the alien beings pulled into the world of Blue Star. But even if they are outsiders, once they enter the annihilation time and space where Blue Star is located, it is extremely difficult and almost impossible to leave. Everyone's eyes are on the Wanchaiwu, because there is news that it can be confirmed that the Wanchaiwu has the ability to send people away from this time and space. And this ability is what they want most at present. All the strong people who come from other worlds can foresee the final direction of this world, destruction. It is almost impossible to reverse. This is an annihilation world. At the same time, weirdness is still appearing. They can't find any reason to prove that this world can continue. Before the world is destroyed, leaving here is the only choice. And now this method is in the hands of the mysterious Wanchaiwu store manager Lin Yi. Although he showed a strong power, he shocked a large number of people who did not know the truth of the world. But for the real strong, this is not enough to completely scare them off. It's just that many people have turned the idea of seizing by force into a transaction. They have already found out what kind of place the Wanchaiwu is. The transaction has been put on their agenda, and at this time there is already a group of people who are communicating with each other and exchanging what they have. YZ country, in a mysterious disaster, the largest capital of this country. Overnight, all the people died. It was an unprecedented disaster that hit the country hard. Fortunately, the ruler of this country still exists and quickly formed a new order. But no one knows that all this is actually caused by their ruler. At this time, the Emperor of the Sun sat quietly in the ancient palace of the capital city. In ancient times, the capital city was the capital of the YZ country, but a series of things happened in the past, and its capital was changed to another place. At this time, with the demise of the new capital, the ancient capital city once again became the capital of the YZ country. The Emperor of the Sun stood at the highest point of the palace, and his eyes looked up at the sky, where there was a moon, shining with silver light. At this time, the Emperor of the Sun looked as if he did not exist in this world. He had a sense of etherealness, as if he was as deep as the void, and seemed to be able to swallow everything in the world. Behind him stood the high priest. "Your Majesty, YZ country has calmed down." The Emperor of the Sun said slowly, "My power has been promoted to the level of the ancestor. Today I will go to the moon and devour the power of the ancestor. By then, I will go one step further and reach a realm unprecedented in history. Everything in YZ country is in your hands." "Yes, Your Majesty." The Emperor of the Sun nodded upon hearing this, and the next moment, his body turned into a faint blood fire, like a meteor flying towards the sky. This flame was very subtle, like a silk thread, and it was not noticeable at all under the blue sky and white sun. It only took a few minutes for this blood-colored flame to reach the atmosphere of the blue star. Its speed is very fast, nearly 3 times the speed of sound, but because it is invisible and intangible, it will not be affected by air resistance. There is no sound, just like a ghost. It easily passed through the blockade of the atmosphere and entered the vacuum outside. The vacuum is filled with countless energy ions and cosmic rays. This affected the blood-colored flame to a certain extent. However, the blood-colored flame vibrated slightly for a while, then adapted to this chaotic state and rushed towards the moon. Its speed is amazing. At its speed, it will reach the moon in a day at most. At that time, it may cause a shocking change. In the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi looked at the large number of celestial relics in front of him, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. Although there are Dao marks in the celestial relics, most of them have defects and tend to be evil information. If I want to use it, I need a lot of analysis, and then combine these evil information. Then form perfect evil Dao marks in different directions. Because he completed the contract, Xuanhuan not only got him a lot of talents, lifespan and various materials. A large number of celestial relics were also obtained through the 3 major palaces. This thing is also of great use to the ancient ancestors in the 3 major palaces. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 829. They have long developed a method to utilize the power in the celestial relics. They can stimulate their spirits to quickly enter a perfect state. They can also use the celestial relics as the object of trial. Through the confrontation of principles, they can feel the evil principles in them, comprehend the corresponding principles, and thus condense a new Dao mark. This is the real reason why a large number of ancient ancestors under the 3 major palaces can condense a large number of Dao marks and build a Dao mark system. The celestial relics are the shortcut for the martial arts system of this world and the future of the gods. Therefore, the strong men in the 3 major palaces have never thought of really destroying the source of the celestial beings. They are renewable resources. Because of the contract, Lin Yi got tens of thousands of celestial relics from the 3 major palaces through Xuanhuan. Although most of them are only at the level of spiritual perfection, the Dao marks contained are only very broken evil principles, and even integrated with negative emotions. But with the accumulation of quantity, Lin Yi can still easily summarize them, and finally sort out the appropriate parts for combination, and finally condense hundreds of perfect evil Dao marks. At this time, his spiritual power has wrapped these celestial relics, and he observed all the information in the Dao mark through the true fate Dao interpretation. Under the power of the mind, the celestial relics collapsed rapidly, and the negative emotions and power in them were all disintegrated into the most basic particles by the power of the mind, and then discharged. Only the purest information was left, and countless information gathered in Lin Yi's mind. Through the understanding of the true fate Dao interpretation, these information had no secrets in front of him. Then, his spirit began to collect this information and reorganize it, and one evil Dao mark after another appeared in Lin Yi's mind. The number of Dao marks is growing at an astonishing rate, reaching 300 in a short time. Basically, 400 or 500 celestial relics can condense a perfect Dao mark. With the appearance of a large number of evil Dao marks, Lin Yi's spirit has more than 370 Dao marks. Under the powerful spiritual deduction of Lin Yi's celestial immortal body, these Dao marks quickly began to combine and construct, and finally formed a huge Dao mark system. Countless acquired principles are running in it, and the torrent of information gradually circulates. An evil and profound spiritual magnetic field permeated. At this moment, Lin Yi seemed to be the source of darkness and the starting point of evil. Anyone who saw him would have their mind twisted and become evil and terrifying. As the spiritual power flowed into this evil spiritual magnetic field, a huge evil domain appeared with him as the center. With a flash of spatial fluctuations, Lin Yi appeared on the first floor of the underground maze. His evil domain quickly opened up, naturally covering an area of tens of meters around him. At this time, he was still at the level of a general, because his Dao traces had not been fused, but only combined systems. The domain generated by this kind of Dao trace can only affect the surrounding energy and the spirit of the organism for the time being, and cannot change the rules of reality. To change the real world, it is necessary to reach a level above the general, and the Dao traces must be completely integrated to form a Dao heart. After the Dao heart is achieved, all Dao traces will completely become a huge cycle. In this huge cycle, there will be a scene like the world. It is an illusory world composed of countless truth information, and the world in it is completely different from the real world outside. Once opened, it can distort reality and make reality operate according to the illusory world, truly showing the power of the martial arts system in this world. And most importantly, this system can be used in any world, borrowing the power, material, time, and space of any world. At this time, illusory pictures flashed in the huge evil domain. All the sins that can be thought of in the world appear here. As long as any creature steps into here, its spirit will be distorted, and its body will quickly mutate and become a monster. Lin Yi easily deduced the effect that his evil domain can currently produce. At the same time, he was suddenly stunned. Why is this a bit weird? Once you step into the weird area, you will become weird after a long time, and no power can stop it. My evil domain has the same effect. Could it be that weirdness is related to the power of the mind? Thinking of this, Lin Yi was thoughtful, and he felt that he seemed to have grasped some of the root of weirdness. Maybe we can investigate in this direction in the future. If the weirdness is really like what I thought, it is related to the power of the mind. Then can we use the power of the mind to block the influence and positioning of the weirdness? We can try to consider this direction. The evil domain slowly shrank and returned to Lin Yi's mind. The power of the mind also disappeared in an instant and returned to the level of the mind. The next step is to wait for the talent to blossom and bear fruit, which will take some time. Although the time in different worlds is also different. But if they want to condense the Dao mark, it will probably take several years to convert it into the world of Blue Star. In this case, if I want to increase the Dao mark, I have to find a way from other places. Those kings are the best targets, if they want to leave this world. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of thinking, How to make these kings willing to trade with him? Maybe we can give it a try. Some strange ideas flashed through his mind, and a lot of notes appeared in Lin Yi's hands. He just waved his hand lightly, and a large number of space-time cracks appeared in front of him. These space-time cracks are connected to various places on Blue Star. Then he threw all the notes in his hand out, and these notes fell along the space-time cracks in many areas of Blue Star under his power. As long as someone is near these notes, they will naturally sense the existence of the notes if they have something in their hearts. And the notes will appear in front of them, opening the door to the Wanchai for them. Since you don't come to me, I will spread my power and let you come to me. Lin Yi showed a faint smile on his face. One after another, space-time cracks appeared in his hands, and a large number of notes were thrown into them, floating to various places on Blue Star. Baban Bay, a small city by the sea, used to be a city that relied on tourism to develop. But since the world changed drastically, the tourism industry has declined sharply, and countless people have been affected. Everyone who wanted to survive had a very hard life. Many people even started to engage in ancient occupations and go out to sea to fish. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 830. Today the sun is high in the sky, and the beach is covered with white sand. The waves are rolling, and the white waves are surging. A skinny young man is lying here with injuries all over his body. His name is Tanik, an ordinary beach boy who used to rely on the tourism industry here to make a living. But a month ago, because of the collapse of tourism, he had no income for a month, and his house rent expired. Then he was driven out directly. Originally, he found a good location near the beach cliff, where there was a rock cave. The entrance of the cave is close to the sea water, and you can often touch some shellfish and fish. Originally, he planned to live there temporarily, but unfortunately, God did not favor him, and the place was spotted by another group of homeless people. They beat him up and threw him out. Now he is tired, thirsty, and injured. Lying on the beach exhausted, looking at the blue sky. There are 3 suns there, releasing blazing light. There seemed to be a fire in his heart, and he was very unwilling to end up like this. Are you going to die? Why is this happening? My life shouldn't be like this. God, why do you want me to live like this? In the next life, I must become a rich man. I don't want to live like a dog anymore. He took a deep breath, and a trace of calmness appeared in his eyes. Let me die, I hope I won't be so unlucky in the next life. Just when Tanik closed his eyes and waited for death, he suddenly felt as if something fell on his face. He was stunned for a moment, and then opened his eyes. It was a palm-sized note. The moment he took the note, a voice seemed to come to his mind. Write down your wish. You will have the opportunity to realize it. Feeling the information emerging in his heart, Tanik's face showed disbelief. But in the current world, all kinds of mysterious existences have descended into this world, bringing all kinds of magical events. Then it is not impossible to realize this wish. Thinking of this, he picked up the note and struggled to sit up from the beach. He walked a few steps into the city of Binhai Bay and found a broken pen from the garbage dump. He nervously wrote down his wish, I want to become a rich man. As he wrote down his wish, new information appeared on his note. 10 years of life can be exchanged for 10 kilograms of gold, and you still have 50 years to live. A special talent can be exchanged for 1 kilogram to 10 kilograms of gold depending on the ability of the talent. A soul can be exchanged for 100 kilograms of gold. When you die in the future, your soul will belong to me. Only your life and soul have value and can be used as an exchange. You don't have any talent. Tanik looked at the content on the note and was slightly stunned. Then his face was uncertain. 10 kilograms of gold is equal to 10,000 G. The current price of gold is 400 yuan per gram, which adds up to 4 million. This is already a huge sum of money for him, but it is still far from the rich man in his mind. But 4 million is enough for him to buy a house, a shop, and do some small business in Haven City. In this way, he can be self-sufficient and live a life of comfort. After thinking for a moment, he immediately made a decision. He wrote on the note, "I am willing to exchange 10 years of life for 10 kilograms of gold." As he wrote his wish on the note ignited without wind. A wonderful power enveloped him, and a milky white glow spread from his body. At the same time, a crack in time and space appeared in front of him, and 10 gold bricks fell out of it and landed in front of him. Looking at the gold bricks in front of him, Tunic trembled all over, his eyes were red, and he excitedly held the gold bricks in his arms. This is what he exchanged for his life, and he wants to rely on them to live a rich life. Holding the gold in his arms, he hid from place to place, carefully looking for a safe place. But at this time, someone had seen him and noticed the gold nuggets hidden in his clothes. 2 people with bad intentions followed him into an alley. "No. Ah. I'm going to fight you. Bang bang bang. Hoo 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 hoo." After a fight, 2 people came out carrying something wrapped in a cloth bag. In the alley, Tunic was lying there covered in blood. All the gold he had exchanged for 10 years of life had been robbed. His eyes were full of tears and despair. He was stabbed several times and was not far from death. At this time, a note appeared in front of him again. "Write down your wishes and you will have a chance to realize them." It was still the same message as at the beginning. He was originally desperate, but he didn't know where the strength came from. He struggled to sit up, picked up a pen, and wrote down his wish. "Save me." The price appeared on the note. 10 years of life can heal all injuries. Or 1/10 of your soul will belong to me after you die. I am willing to exchange 10 years of life to save me. He quickly wrote the last sentence on the note. The next moment, the note ignited without wind, and the power of the contract wrapped around him. In this contract, a green energy surged out and rushed directly into his body. His body was intact at a speed visible to the naked eye, the wounds healed, and he survived again. After surviving, his heart was filled with anger. The money he had spent 10 years of his life to exchange for was actually robbed. He even wasted 10 years of his life to survive. Now he can only live for 30 years, which makes him almost desperate. He wasted 20 years of his life in vain. No, it won't be like this. I want to take back everything I have, and no one can take away what belongs to me. At this time, there was only boundless anger in his mind. Great existence, I still want to make a deal. Give me a chance. Tunic knelt on the ground, with his hands raised high, as if begging to some existence. A note appeared in his hand again. "As you wish, what do you want to exchange?" "I want power, the power to take back the gold I lost." This time he did not say anything about invincible power, or the world's best power. Because he already knew that if he wanted to get something, he had to pay a corresponding price. Now he had to weigh the pros and cons, because he didn't have much life left. The content of the transaction appeared on the note again, 10 years of life, which can allow you to step into the peak of the first stage of martial arts in this world and obtain a perfect body. I do.